Hello and welcome back to the Pulse of Willie and Al. How's it going today, bro?
Hey man, we're recording this day after Christmas. Happy holidays. How are you, buddy?
Happy holidays to you too, man. I'm still I'm nursing getting over being sick, neck injury. Still, I'm hanging in there, man. So, but definitely, I,
Jesus.
I wasn't listen. I wasn't gonna take today off no matter what. I was gonna make this episode happen. So, because it's our 31st episode, which is pretty awesome. Greg
Whew.
Maddox's number. But this is
We are
episode.
Greg Maddox. Yeah,
Well,
no, we're Greg Maddox.
listen,
Yeah,
if we could be, it would mean that we throw 84 miles an hour max, and we like to get people to ground out to us constantly.
yeah,
So,
no,
um,
and win a million Cy Youngs.
yeah, yeah, I'm okay with that. But listen, this is episode number 31. Let's get ready for some fun, because it's almost playoff football. We are almost there. So, but
Golly.
yeah, I'm ready to go for it. But listen, before we jump into some of the great news from Week 16, just want to remind you guys, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and like the video. Drop us a comment. Drop us a dislike if you dislike the video. We're looking for our next one. So also, let us know what you think we could do better. We'd love to be able to service a new audience, but we got to know how to improve. So. But let's go ahead. Let's jump into these NFL storylines from Week 16. First one, and I think honestly the biggest one. People are still maybe haven't slept since it, but Baltimore smashing San Francisco. I mean, this was. It didn't seem like it was going to start off well for Baltimore, but. I think that more had to do with Lamar tripping over the referee than it did Baltimore getting off to a slow start. So, what did you think of this game, man?
First of all, it was just a weird game from start to finish. First of all, two really good defenses. I think I texted you at one point last night, and I was like, the score is currently 5-3. This reeks. This reeks of a game of two good defenses. And then quickly, Baltimore's like, "Nah, man, we're gonna put this away early." I was really impressed with Baltimore. I really was. Like I told you before we started recording, this was I think the first Ravens game that I'd watched start to finish. That wasn't like Sunday ticket or red zone in a bit.
Yeah.
This season, and they, man, boy, I forgot. You forget some are for extended periods. That dude's fast, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Just insane.
Yeah, really was. Yeah, so for that, I just was really impressed, right? Like Baltimore obviously played very, very well on defense. Purdy had the four picks, and I know we had talked about that. Like some weren't his fault, some were. But he just, I guess there was a lot of talk recently about him being a system quarterback and just not really being that guy that you can trust. Even though he had the MVP numbers, people still trying to doubt him. So, what did you see out of him that you thought wasn't good, or maybe what was your take on him from this game?
Well, he threw three of those picks in the first quarter, and I two of those weren't his fault. Two of those were like those weird like deflections where it just kind of went up in the air, um, and like nothing you can really do with those. One of them, yeah, and then one of them he threw to a receiver, and he like the DB kind of came crashing in at the same time, and the ball just went straight up in the air. Get like those are just fluky picks. The thing that I did see with Purdy, I haven't been able to figure out if this is just Baltimore's really good defensively or this is a Purdy problem. But Purdy got a lot of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage last night.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is the Ravens because defensively they are good. They lead the league in sacks for a reason. Like they are, and like they're just like Clowney I feel like Clowney was in the backfield all night for them last night. Like constantly, they were just big dudes getting their hands up. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of it has to do with the Ravens defense, but like also like if you're Brock Purdy, man, like and that's happening to you, like I would think you would just like throw the ball just a little higher. Like, but again, I am not an NFL quarterback, so I cannot even begin to pretend to know like if that would fix anything. But
Yeah, I think like he's going to have a really hard time, and I think through his career probably trying to shake that. One week you're really good and you're riding the top. The next week, you're just trash, right? Like that's the way people kind of feel about him. It's very polarizing, and there's a lot of people saying like I told you so because he was Mr. Irrelevant, right? But people forget he was the most efficient quarterback this season coming into this game. I mean, his numbers
yeah,
were no joke. Yeah, you could say he dumps off every pass, and oh, okay, the minute you take that away, he's not that good. But the guy was making throws this year. I just, if you look at it, that especially that one interception, I think Kyle Hamilton's second pick that he had gotten sandwiched to the ground by the lineman. He got up off of the ground and stayed with the play and was able to catch that deflection. So it's really, I don't know. There's a lot of variables that go into playing quarterback, and I don't want to be too quick to jump on him and say like, oh yeah, he's not that good because of what happened. I just this San Francisco defense to me was what kind of lost them the game because they weren't able to get the stops that they usually get. They weren't able to keep Baltimore under control. They had multiple times where it seemed like okay, they had them in third down, where Baltimore would end up converting on that. They gave up the
yeah.
most points in a game they've given up all season, and I think Baltimore really exposed them. And like now, we had talked about this in previous episodes about Lamar. Like this is the fourth team now from the NFC that Baltimore has handed them, uh, handled them very very
Smashed.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
like I mean, okay, so the Rams ended up coming back, and it seemed like that was an awesome game to watch because it was just back and forth and back and forth. But that was kind of the rarity out of these teams. And if you would ask me
Yeah.
which team do you think would give them the hardest time, I would definitely say it was San Francisco. But they didn't. They handled them very, very easily. What
I'll
do
tell
you
you,
think going forward
Baltimore.
on it?
I think Baltimore too. The tempo that they set early on, and I can't remember if this was. I think this was early second quarter. They were at San Francisco's one on fourth and goal, and they decided to go for it. And that's a
Yeah.
gutsy call. That is Harbaugh telling his team like, hey, like we need to punch these guys in the mouth, and we have a chance to do this early and land it like a haymaker. We got to capitalize off these
Was
turnovers.
that with Gus Edwards when he ended up running it
Yeah,
in there? Yeah, yep. You're
yeah,
absolutely right. And it looked like
yeah,
if you look at that play, Gus Edwards is out at about the 6 yard line when he gets the ball. Like
yep.
he starts from there and then he's running. I mean, he's a pretty big back. But to just go 1 yard he had to go 6 yards to be able to get that 1 yard. Like it's I don't know. It was kind of crazy to see that, but you're right. Like it changes the whole demeanor in which you play with. And San Francisco's like, oh, they're not going to take the field goal here. Like,
Well, and I thought they were going to at first too, because it just seemed like Baltimore was settling for field goals early, and I was like, okay, like that seems like that might come back and haunt them. But Baltimore knew what they were, and once they did that, the whole complexion of that game changed because
mhm.
like Purdy couldn't move the ball. They McCaffrey was like for early was getting like 5 yards a carry, but like he was having to work for every single one of those yards,
He's such a
and
good
he was just
running
getting
back too. Like if you watch him, he's majestic, man. He
yeah,
really
he
is.
was getting lit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like when you watch him, he's like the perfect balance of like angel and muscle, right? Like
Yeah,
he's super agile with tons of power at the same time. But you're right. Like at some points he was just getting stopped and had to grind for every half yard he possibly could get the whole game.
yeah, and he was like getting hit hard. And that's what I forgot about this Ravens defense this year is excuse my language, but they will hit the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Like they just are just big. Like that defensive line, good luck trying to move them. Good luck. Because they are just it's just big boy after big boy on that line. And it's and they for guys that size, they're fast too, which means they're always in the backfield and they're disrupting stuff before it even anything can happen.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
I think I'm impressed with Baltimore. I am. Like
well,
that
look at their
was a big win for
linebackers.
them.
Yeah, like they got
Yeah,
Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Both of them have over 100 tackles on the season. Like they're beasts,
yeah,
man. They get after it. And when you got big guys up front, like Clowney is playing like he was a rookie. Uh,
yeah,
he's been having a great year. So I kind of chuckle though. Like, what does Baltimore get for winning that game? It's like, yes, you made it. You knocked off that team that no one really thought you were gonna beat, and like all of this, what did they get? They get to turn around and then play the Dolphins, and then finish it off with the Steelers, which are two games that like, okay, the Dolphins are probably gonna be without Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Probably Devin
yeah,
Achan's probably not going to be there either, but still, like, not a fun team that you want to play. And then the Steelers, like, who wants to play against that defense in January? No,
yeah.
no one does. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's crazy because they've done all this work and they still haven't locked up the number one seed.
Well, we'll talk about it when we break down Baltimore and Miami. But if they win, they clinch the one seed. That's all. They win and clinch. That's all they got to do. And if they can do that, then I would imagine that they're going to sit everybody for against the Steelers.
Yeah, I imagine
Yeah,
as well. All right, well, let's jump into other things because I know we're gonna talk about Baltimore a little bit more coming up here. But the Rams winning was a big one. And listen, Thursday games get kind of lost in the shuffle, but this win really said a lot to me. And Stafford and the Rams, they're really rolling. Like they've been playing a lot better as of recent. And even if they split the last two games with Giants, they play the New York Giants and San Francisco, which I believe they're probably going to do that. They'll still win, like have a wild card spot and be able to get in, and they own the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. So like I don't know. When I look at the Rams this year, and I did not pick them to be very good this year because I couldn't name anyone on their defense besides Aaron Donald. But
yeah,
like
same.
Sean McVay's, this might be his best coaching job that he's done ever. I mean,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah,
you just look at it like it's amazing what he's been able to do there with this team. Cooper Cup started off the first month of the season hurt. Like the already out of the gates, you're like, oh, we're not expecting much from this team. They're going to be behind off, and they're going to have to throw a lot. They're 8-7 now, and they've beat some good teams. Like I wanted to get your kind of take on it because the way Stafford's been playing, this just sets the I want you to imagine this real quick before you answer the question I already asked you, right? But I want you to imagine this for a second. If they win the wild card, imagine them going to Detroit and playing at Detroit and possibly winning that game. That would be insane that would happen, right? Like it would be
yeah,
devastating to Detroit for that to happen. But it, I feel like it has to happen. Can we speak that into to actually happening into existence? I want
yeah.
that.
I watching the Rams do what they did this year because I like you. I just assumed that they were going to tank and try to get like Caleb Williams. That's I honestly at the beginning of the season I had no expectations for them.
Hmm.
And the fact that they're currently sitting as the sixth seed, and if the playoffs were to start today, is bonkers.
Yep.
Is absolutely bonkers. Now, sure, that means they're probably gonna have to play Detroit in round one,
How insane!
but like,
It's nuts.
yeah, I, I, I think Sean McVay should get Coach of the Year votes. I really do because I agree with you. This is his best coaching that he's done yet.
Yeah.
I mean, like I mean, it helps that the emergence of Nakua has been really nice. They have a real legitimate 1-2 threat on the outside with him and Cup.
Yep.
Um, Stafford is like Stafford's kind of playing old man football at this point, and he's smart enough to know that,
Yeah.
and he's doing all the right things. And he's been around the league for so long that like he knows what he needs to do to win, and he's like taking care of himself. He's not taking big hits. Like it's
Kyron
this
Williams is
team's
a
really
good
kind of
back.
humming.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
I just look at it. You're right. That's the perfect word. They're humming. They really are, man.
yeah,
And they're awesome to watch. Like you turn on the
yeah.
television and watch them, you're like, man, this isn't bad football to watch. So it's
No,
Real happy for them. And I'm anxious to see what they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised to see them beat a team like Dallas or maybe even Detroit. I don't know. Another team that comes to mind too is Tampa Bay. Like they're,
Yeah,
I'll tell you, I could not be happier for Baker. I really couldn't, man. He feels like he's found his groove there, and they're playing very, very well. So, uh, while you're seeing some of these teams like Dallas start to struggle, I wouldn't be surprised to see a team like that come in and knock them off. Um, now that moving on, right now, of course, we got to mention Detroit next. Listen, clinching this division, like the great game with Minnesota, that was just first of all another crazy Jefferson catch. Did you see that?
yeah, just absolutely insane.
I mean,
Like,
listen,
god damn.
I know a lot of people saying same old Lions, but like Jared Goff's played well this for the year. I mean, he's played well. Just some crazy stats that I noticed here, just breaking down the game. He threw the ball 40 times, but they also ran
Yeah,
36 times. They almost ran 80 plays. They controlled the ball for 38 minutes. It just for me like that's okay. So Minnesota they ended up winning right at the end, right? Like hanging on there, but like I just when you control that much, it's it's wild what you're able to do. So I don't
yeah.
know. What did you think of this game? Are you happy for Detroit? You think they're going to get smoked in the first round? Like what's up?
First of all, the game that they played is Dan Campbell smash mouth football. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it. They held the ball for 38 minutes, and you look at like you think about it, that drive in the fourth quarter, 14 plays, 83 yards, burned up 7 minutes of clock. Like that's that's a big boy drive right there. That is a hey, we're up by two, and Minnesota's kind of breathing down our throats or breathing out down our backs. Like we got to do something, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what they did. That is a I don't necessarily trust that they're going to go far in the playoffs, but they're at least going to play hard.
They'll build off of it, and this is what will happen, man, is they're going to get free agents in the offseason. There are guys that are going to want to they're going to see what they have there and they're going to want to come play there. I'll tell you like that's how it starts, man. Really does.
Yeah,
So,
and right now too, like Detroit, like they have 2 games left, and they still have a lot to play for seeding wise. Like there's an outside shot they can get the 1 seed.
yeah, I
There was
know. I know. It's insane looking at the standings and seeing that.
like the top three in the NFC are all 11-4 right now,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Mhm.
Like which I think that means like San Francisco, Philly, and Detroit week 7, like last week of the season, they're going to have to play all their starters because I think seeding is going to actually matter. And you just want that 1 seed. You
Yeah.
just want that 1 seed, so because it's the only bye you're going to get to rest everyone, and I think that's going to be a real dogfight the last 2 weeks of the season.
You know what's wild too is Baltimore's beaten two out of the top four teams there, and then those
Yep.
teams that Baltimore beat have beat the rest of the top four, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's wild, and of course A plus B doesn't always equal C, but it's interesting to think about. So, all right, moving on. We'll jump back to the AFC now. What about Kansas City losing to Las Vegas? It looks like they are just imploding. I mean, they looked absolutely awful. I
Yeah.
just I don't know. What were your thoughts on this game, man?
When I think I had texted you, it was like 20-7 at that point. I was like, they're getting Kansas City's just getting waxed right now. I
Yeah.
could not believe what I was watching. Like I had to like text you just because like I needed somebody else to know that like this was actually happening and I was watching it in real time because it just fucking broke my brain what I was watching.
Hmm.
First of all, can we just talk about Aiden O'Connell? Okay. 62 yards passing in the first quarter. And you're like, cool. He's going to really build upon that. Great. Quarters 2, 3, and 4, zero passing yards.
Yeah.
Zero. I don't know what the Raiders are doing, but like
They're
it's
running
working.
the ball.
Like,
Samir White. That like
yeah.
they didn't need to do anything else against this Chiefs team, man. It just
And what's wild with the Raiders is they are only 2 back of the
mhm.
Chiefs for the division. And they're one out of a playoff spot. is absolutely bananas that
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell could potentially start a playoff game.
Yeah.
God bless. God bless. If I was a gambling man, oh my god. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding? Like, Jesus.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's wild right now. It is absolutely wild. That being said, the Chiefs are a mess. And I know that I talk about like, well, they're the champs. I get that. That being said, I'm really concerned with them right now because what I watched with them against the Raiders are a team that's just like okay, like okay, I'm gonna use a wrestling analogy here because like I know that you're gonna understand this.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of go and like you're about to face a guy and you're like, okay, I know I can beat this guy, and like you don't take it really seriously, as serious as you should.
Yep.
We've all you and I have both been there. And then like real quickly, like you get taken down once, you're like, oh shit, I need to get my shit together here real quickly.
Yep.
And like I think that the Chiefs realize, oh shit, we've got to get our shit together, but like they have no game plan of how to fix that. Like they're just kind of
Yeah.
like just kind of going through the motions.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
disheartening to watch.
it is really disheartening. Like well, I got to give Zach a shout out here because he'll love this. But it was also this was the best tweet that I read about this game. It was the first time in the NFL that there was a fart and a taint back to back. Now,
Oh, I love that stat.
let,
That's
let
incredible.
let me explain. So a fart is a fumble and return for touchdown, and then taint is touchdown after interception. So I thought that was amazing. I had to include it. But for real, like the Chiefs are, and not to make fun of them and stuff, but they look terrible. They're making
Yeah.
uncharacteristic turnovers. It is awful to watch them play right now. It doesn't matter if Taylor Swift's in the stands or not. Like it doesn't. Rather in the box. She's never in the stands. But
You know what? No, put her on the field. Like
yeah,
she probably could play better than half these receivers right now. Like
oh man,
respectfully.
man, it's rough. And like I guess the concern comes not with how they finish the season because they're going to make the playoffs, but my concern is okay, like they're going to have to play during the divisional round, and that's going to be the first time Mahomes has had to do that. I'm just not sure I like them against some of these wild card teams. I just don't.
Yeah, it's they. I think they're going to host a playoff game because they're going to win. I think they're going to win the division.
Hmm.
Because I don't trust the Raiders to keep doing what. Oh, I don't. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. The Raiders, they could win the division. This season's been so weird. I don't know what's going to happen. Uh, that being said, I assume that they're going to win the division though, and they're going to host a playoff game. I don't trust that they're going to win that game though.
Yeah, I could see the Browns coming in and upsetting them. I don't know, like maybe the Raiders end up getting a wild card spot and like they come in and just are like, no, we got your number now and we got exactly the confidence we need. Now we're gonna take it to you. Um, I mean, they did that to them
It,
at home.
I, yeah, yeah. It also too, if they're not careful, Jacksonville's lurking with the 4 seed right now.
Hmm.
If somehow they slip to the 4, they're going to face Cleveland or potentially Buffalo in round 1, and they want. I assure you, Kansas City wants no part of either of those teams right now.
Yeah,
They don't.
yeah,
They do not. Especially Buffalo, who is clicking on all cylinders, and apparently Cleveland, it's 2012, and Joe Flacco is the best quarterback in the league again. I don't know.
yep.
Yeah, it's just
He
bananas.
he's
But
just
like,
figuring it out.
respectfully, the Chiefs want no part of either of those teams, and they're going to get one of those teams in round 1, I think. And if the Chiefs aren't careful, they're going to fuck around and find out, and it's going
Yeah,
to be a first round exit, and it's going to be sad. Like,
they definitely are.
yeah,
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk about two teams that aren't in that position right now. They're in a much better position in terms of what they're looking at. For our Week 17 matchup, we're going to break down Miami at Baltimore, and this game's kind of interesting because as we talked about Baltimore before, they looked very good in their win over San Francisco. I mean, Lamar, they were talking about him being the front runner for the MVP. I have my thoughts on that, but like if they're going to say that, just rename it the quarterback award, right? Because it basically
Yeah.
means guys like McCaffrey don't stand a chance. But I mean, it just right now for Baltimore, it appears they don't need a number one receiver. They just have like they need all their guys to contribute, which they're doing right now. I mean, I know they drafted Zay Flowers. He's not really a number one. He's more of like a slot receiver, but he's been very close to a number one for them. And you look at he's been absolutely superb for them and has been really Lamar's safety blanket this year in terms of what he brings. I've got to ask you, like, are there weaknesses you see on this squad because they just absolutely crushed what we thought was. I think we both thought San Francisco was the best team in the league.
I know this happened to them early in the season a couple of times, and I still like it happened enough times where I'm still a little concerned. Sometimes Baltimore gets too cute in the second half of games, and they have blown some big leads this year. And I know it hasn't happened in a while this season, but like we watched it a couple of times early this season, and like that concerns me. That concerns me in a real way because like when it comes playoff time, like you need it. Like if you have a chance to step on somebody's throat, you got to do it.
Yeah,
You
like
got to do it.
thinking back, like just games that are off the top of my head, like I remember the Indy game that wasn't good. Cleveland when they played them the second time, it wasn't good. Oh,
Yeah,
they almost dropped that game to the Rams. Like, I just you're right. Like they allow teams kind of back in it, and you can't do that. You got to be able to, like you said, step on their throat and really shut it down. Um, you got to do that, man. It's too much for that. Um, but like in terms of defense, they're awesome, man. Like they really are. They're playing very very well. Offense, they're humming, and this is without J.K. Dobbins. This is without Mark Andrews. Like without OBJ being like what he told the world he was and what we knew he wasn't.
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah,
just and that's not a knock on him. He's older now, man. Like there's younger guys coming in doing that at the level he was. So, but then you look at the other side, right? I mean, Miami, dude, they just beat Dallas in epic fashion at home. I mean, that was Dallas's
yeah.
game. It's crazy. I heard something on podcast about it, and they were saying like when Dak Prescott came off the field, he was the MVP of the league, and for that last 2 minutes, it changed, and it was not
Yeah.
under his control at all, and it just I don't know. Like, what were your thoughts on that game?
It's funny because I watching that game in real time. I what concerned me was that I thought they had left too much time on the clock for Miami, and I remember thinking that at the time, being like, I don't know, man. Like that's you kind of let like, and I knew they like I get it. They couldn't really mess around. They had to score, but like, boy, they left too much time for Miami, and like defensively, my defensively, like Dallas just they couldn't get a stop when they needed to.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say a thing too. Dak didn't play particularly well up until that drive.
Mm-hmm.
They like it was weird up until that drive. Like CeeDee Lamb hadn't touched the ball since he had scored that long touchdown, and that's wild to me because he's their best player, and he just goes quarters without getting a touch, and like
Yeah.
that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Like partially that's on him. He's got to get open, but also too like you got to drop plays for that guy. He's your best player for a reason. And then on that play on that drive, he had two crucial third and fourth down like conversions. They went to him and he got it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man.
I think you're right. Like guys that I think of that like are schemed into every week are guys like Amon Ross St. Brown, Keenan Allen, especially this year. Like they find ways to feed them consistently. Devontae Adams when he was with the Packers, right? Like you've got to feed them constantly. And it's not that like CD Lamb is like going to complain if he doesn't get the ball, but when you're losing games and you're not putting the ball in his hands, like at least he should be getting 2 targets a quarter. At least, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, man, especially about this game, it said a lot about both teams. And in my mind, Miami finally was able to beat a team that people considered good. And they did it in really like a silencing fashion, with them being able to win right at the end of the game there and not. They milk the clock very well, and that's what happens with McDaniel's. Like he's gonna have, I'm sorry, McDaniel, is that you're gonna have,
no,
he's gonna make good, sound coaching decisions. But also for Dallas,
yeah,
like they lost again on the road, and it just appears that they're a team that maybe just can't finish. Like, especially we had mentioned it before about the Pollard not being able to get in at the goal line, and I have to agree that Zeke was needed, man. Their best goal line back is in New England, and that
yeah,
sucks. That really sucks for them because they're finding out now how much they miss that, and that's not just this game, man. Look through this season how many times Pollard's come down on the 1 yard line. I mean, unless your name's Christian
yeah,
McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, you need two backs. Or maybe Derrick Henry too, right? But you're even seeing the value Ty J. Spears brings to that team, right? It just, I don't know.
right,
I just, I think kind of that yin and yang, they're missing that. And I think Zeke would have been a perfect complement to this team with that defense. He could get those tough yards when you needed him to, even if he couldn't do it like he did when he was younger, right? It just,
yeah,
I don't know. I think Al, honestly, you hit the nail on the head there before about the defense, though, and that was something I didn't want to interrupt you because I wanted to let you get your point out on that. But when this team really needed a stop, they've been able to hang their hat on their defense all year and how good they've been and all of this, but their defense could not get a stop. And it's not like they only had one chance and it was like, well, that's it. They had multiple opportunities to be able to get off the field and they just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it,
yeah,
man.
yeah. It's this, yeah. To bring it back to Baltimore, Miami, real quick, like like thinking through this game, like Baltimore definitely needs this game because they win and they can clinch the 1 seed, and that's great. But Miami almost kind of needs this game more because if they lose this game, this sets up a winner take all for against Buffalo next week, which means winner gets the 2 seed, losers going on the road for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And like that has some real implications that like if Buffalo, because Miami plays great at home,
Yep.
that they're like Dallas. They're a really good home team.
Hmm.
And while Baltimore really needs this game, Miami almost needs it more. And I think you're going to see Miami throw the kitchen sink at Baltimore because they have to win out
I mean,
to like at least get either the 1 seed or the 2 seed. Like,
yeah, they're going to be shorthanded, and that's going to be a tough thing, especially against a loaded Baltimore team. But could you
yeah,
imagine, man? Like, could you imagine it goes winner takes all next week, and Buffalo has a chance for like to really get the home field, and then after that, Miami gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Like we had talked about this
yeah,
last week when we had talked about Miami and stuff, and I was saying, basically for the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks, including the Super Bowl, they have to play playoff football every single week. I just don't know if they can do that, man. Like that, I don't know any team that can do that every single week. And it's going to be
yeah,
a big, big task for them. Like I don't know. Like the defense has been playing much better ever since Ramsey came back. I get that piece of it, but I just don't know if they can slow down Lamar and this offense. Like they just play such sound football, and then not to mention special teams. When you've got a kicker that can make 60-yard field goals, you don't even need to get that close. There's no
yeah,
pressure. There's no pressure because it's like, you know what? We'll just run Tucker out there. He'll hit a 65-yarder and win the game for us. No big deal. Like it just,
yeah. With Baltimore, you just have to get over midfield. That's all
yeah,
you got to do.
yep. And that's honestly with that team, Lamar can figure out a way to do that. It
Yeah,
just, I don't know. So I meant to ask you at some point here, but who do you have winning this game? How do you see this ending up?
Boy, I know this is recency bias, but like if you're not going to get a healthy Waddle, which looks like he's questionable right now with the shin injury,
Yep.
I gotta say this is Baltimore
Yeah.
because I think they are going to make Tua's life absolutely miserable. Now I know Tua gets the ball out quickly, but like I really think that this is going to be Baltimore coming in and punching Miami in the mouth.
Hmm.
And like because for Baltimore, all they got to do is play really hard this week, and they can just sit everybody and get essentially get 2 weeks off.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I think for them that's the main focus. And I think Baltimore is going to win this, and I think Miami's going to put up some points, but I think it's gonna be 31-17 Baltimore.
Oh my God. Al,
Yeah,
it is our
I didn't even
31st.
look at your.
It is our 31st episode, and we have the same
I
exact prediction.
didn't even look at the notes.
That's
I
amazing. That's the first time that's happened. So that is
that's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, it really is, man. I hope, and it's funny because like we both think of this game virtually the same in terms of what it
Yeah,
brings. But yeah, that's exactly what I would say for this because I just think Baltimore may be riding high from that winning against San Francisco. They know what they have to do, and the last thing you want is someone like Lamar on a mission. I mean,
yeah.
I just
Also,
yeah.
Bal- I was gonna say also real quick with Baltimore, they have 7 guys that have at least 3 sacks or more on that team.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
That's
this defense is sick. And one thing I wanted to mention about Baltimore before we wrap up on them is it's okay. So some people are saying like, oh, Lamar's stats aren't really MVP stats for the season, this and that. Okay, I understand that. I can buy into that. I get that piece. I think he's actually unlocked another superpower with that though. Realizing that he doesn't need to play at an MVP level, all he needs to do is be efficient. Like
yeah.
you watched him against San Francisco, he wasn't forcing passes, wasn't doing any of that. Like, and even watching him run around, it's funny, man. I don't know. It seems
He's
like
actually gotten. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it seems like people have like mud on their boots, like they can't catch him, right?
Yeah,
Like it's super funny.
he's I think he's been more efficient as a runner this year.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Is like he doesn't take off as often, but when he needs to, like he's I think he's gotten smarter about that.
hmm,
Because I think Lamar in 2019 was the guy that was just run first and then look for the pass. And now it's the opposite. Like goes through all his reads and he's like, okay, I've got nothing. There's a window. I'm going to take off because I know that I can get like 6 yards here. Easy.
yeah. Todd Monken, I think, has something to do with that because of him bringing in the offense and kind of that philosophy.
Yeah.
But even you saw it last night. He took off to just get a first down, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, there's more room here." And if you go back and watch that play, there's like 5 San Francisco players just standing around, and it's like he's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna keep running. I'm gonna go through this." Like,
Yeah.
and he ended up picking up, I think, another 10 yards out of it. And I'm just like, man, like get that guy, get him now, right? Like,
Yeah. It,
uh,
in Baltimore, too, as a team, is averaging 5 yards a carry
yeah,
on the season. For like, if you're routinely in second and five, that just opens up the playbook with a guy like Lamar.
yeah, it really does.
So,
You got to respect the run. So, all right. Well,
yeah.
let's go ahead and shift gears. We've got some crazy news coming out of Major League Baseball free agency. I know you're very happy because like the Dodgers are going to be amazing. So, let's talk about the
Fuck my
Yamamoto
life.
sweepstakes. Yeah, right. Like, what were your thoughts on that?
Wasn't shocked. Yeah, just wasn't shocked as a Red Sox fan. Like I'm really just it's kind of a bummer right now because like there's no I know I always bring back to the Red Sox because I love them so much and boy it just doesn't seem like there's a real path forward for them and that sucks. But also this means now that the Dodgers have a lot of fucking pressure to win the World Series this year.
Yeah,
It is
absolutely.
anything less than winning a World Series is going to be considered a disappointment.
Dude, but Al, that's the way it's been the last 5, 6 years for the Dodgers. Like it
Yeah,
really
like
has. Now it's just like overkill. Now it's like those Patriot teams that were undefeated. No offense, but like if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's like the season's lost, right? And like that's not true when you think of it. I realize it's based on Super Bowl wins and World Series wins, but like I don't know, like you're left with nothing after, right? Like if you don't win, you're left with nothing. So winning is the only way that this team's going to be able to justify like paying Otani 2 million a year and giving the bag to Yamamoto and all these guys, right? Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, all these guys that got paid, they got to go out and get it now.
yeah, yeah, and I think they're going to be fine. I think they're the Dodgers. I think that Yamamoto really between him and Glasnow, and I assume that they're going to bring Kershaw back. Um, I at least that's a three-person rotation. Like you're kind of you're kind of banking on that they're going to stay healthy. And Glasnow, a little iffy. And then Kershaw, like I feel like he goes on the IL at least once a season.
Yeah.
Um, but they have all the pieces, man. They have all the pieces that like they're probably going to win 105 games again, 110 games. But like honestly, like
Just be thankful
we
Otani's
they
not
just
pitching.
yeah, yep. And what worries me is that they're gonna just flame out in the first round again. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. This is the thing. After what I watched the Phillies do this past year, I don't think it would have mattered who they played. They were going to crush through them. Like it just and then they ran out of steam for the second year in a row in the World Series. But that's, it I don't know, man.
yeah, no, I the Diamondbacks kind of came in there against the Dodgers, and like there was just like it was very evident very quickly that there was no way that Arizona was going to lose a game. They just had to
Yeah.
determine they're like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
I know you guys have won a million games this year, and we kind of suck, but like, nah.
We start
And
over at
like
zero again, man. It's
yeah, and honestly, here's the thing: if they don't win the World Series this year, I wouldn't be shocked if Dave Roberts gets fired.
yeah, yeah. I'd have to agree with you on that. Have to agree with you on that. That's man.
Yeah, I think it's a great pickup for them though. I mean, huge contract. There are a couple opt outs in that contract after year 6 and year 8. Um, so realistically, he could opt out at 31 at age 31 season, which means he's still in his prime. Um, but that's a big contract, and none of it is deferred. That is all upfront money. Um,
Yeah.
so it will. I think he's going to make the transition pretty easily to the Major League Baseball. You watched it in the World Baseball Classic. Him and Otani were just mowing down hitters, and it
Yeah.
was man. If Yamamoto can do that in MLB consistently, like he is going to be a real treat to watch every 5 days.
I,
Man, oh man.
I was going to ask you, does it provide him some confidence, you think, having Otani there, and that vice versa as well?
I think so. I think so because in the WBC, like they were really good friends,
Hmm.
and they've known each other for a long time and have always been really good friends. And like, I think that's really going to help Yamamoto. I think he's going to have somebody like Otani that's like, hey man, like I was where you were 5 years ago.
And this is how life
You're in a
is
new
here.
league,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think he's going to really be able to help him. And it honestly, too, here's the thing with Yamamoto, like the spotlight is going to be on him somewhat, but like it's all going to be on Otani because of that
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Like Yamamoto can kind of like he can't go in there and go 2-12 in his first season because people will fucking revolt.
Yeah.
But like I think what's gonna happen is I think spring training, I would bet any amount of money there's gonna be some transition. I will bet any amount of money he's gonna get lit up in spring training and everybody's gonna be like, oh no, is this a
Yep.
bad contract? And then like in early April, he's gonna figure it out and I think he's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So
I could see that happening. Well, listen, good news for the Dodgers, bad news for everyone else in in the National League, right? So,
for real though.
well, moving on. Listen, the Diamondbacks made a move there with Gurriel. I just was curious, like, how big of a signing is this? Do you think it's going to have, big effects on the Diamondbacks, or what were you thinking on this?
Honestly, like he was an all-star for them this year. He's got some really good pop and a pretty friendly deal too, considering what hitters are going for these days. Like,
Hmm.
I think that's a good signing. He got made his first all-star team. He's 29, prime of his career. It's not like a terrible contract. I think it's like 3 for 42 million. I I like that Arizona is like they're tr- they're trying to not they're trying to run it back, obviously, but like they're trying to build something, and they're trying to build something legitimately for the first time in what feels like forever. And I think with him and Carroll, you have kind of like those building blocks in that lineup now, and you can kind of build the lineup around their strengths.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really like that deal overall for them.
Okay. The
So
next one I saw here, we had the Padres. They ended up signing Matsui to a 5-year deal. Um,
yeah, so he's essentially the best closer. He's the best closer in Japan currently.
mhm.
That's I, to make the translation pretty easy. Like it's it's I think that's a really big pickup because I'm not sure that Josh Hader's coming back to San Diego. So this kind of hedges their bets. Like I think they're still going to make a run at Hader because I think you could never have enough really good bullpen arms. But like it at least softens the blow of Hader is gone.
Yeah.
So which I think personally I think he's not coming back to San Diego. I think he really is going to dictate the market for closers, and he's the best closer available, and he's one of the best closers in the league. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good pickup for them though, and I think same thing. I think his stuff really translates well to the major league game, and I think you're going to see that this year. So
Awesome. So Padres
yeah,
dipped in and got some of that. So the international talent, good job for them.
yeah, right.
uh, the last one that I saw, and this was kind of just digging a little bit, but Mitch Garver. I know the Mariners ended up reaching a 2-year deal with him. Just curious, like, is this really big news, or is it just like the last piece of free agency that we're tagging into here?
No, I actually Mitch Garver is not a bad player. Like he's going to be like sorry, I'm trying to look for the best comparison with him. He's a guy that you want. He's got solid pop in the lineup in his bat. Like he's a guy that's probably going to hit like probably like sixth. You could do a lot worse. You could, and I think he's really kind of an upgrade over what they already have. And I'm here for it. Like he's a decent hitting catcher, and I think that he's gonna. I think he's gonna be okay. I think Seattle's gonna be a good place for him to hit, and yeah, I like that signing. It's a sneaky good signing that like not enough people are talking about.
Okay. Well, I'm
So
glad we were able to
yeah,
give it some press then, because didn't
yeah,
seem like ESPN was talking much on it, or anyone else that I was listening to. So glad we were able to give you a shout out, Mitch. So,
right.
were there any other signings you saw that were important, or new ones that we should be looking out for?
No, I mean the class now got the extension. They gave him a 5 year, $135 million extension.
Hmm.
That's that's really it. Andrew McCutcheon coming back for one more year with the Pirates,
I
which is really
saw that,
fun.
and he's 1 home run shy
Yeah,
of 300. Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that'll be really good for him. And Pittsburgh loves that guy. He loves Pittsburgh. He's the epitome of the Pirates since the 2000s. Really,
Yeah.
I love it. And I was sad that he like because he was having a decent season when he got hurt. So I really that's a fun pickup for me, and I really like that. So I think this is his last year, and I like that he's going to finish his career in Pittsburgh
Yeah,
on his
that's
terms. I really like that.
good for him, man.
Yeah.
It will definitely be nice to see that. So, but yeah, man, we'll hop into the trivia question here, and then we can wrap up. But the question from last week that we had, there were two teams that had never won a division title in Major League Baseball. Um, you go ahead, give them the sugar, man. Let them know.
Yeah, ironically, it's the two expansion teams from 1993, the Florida Marlins and the Colorado Rockies.
Mm.
And what's even funnier is the Marlins have won two World Series.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yep.
wild that they haven't won a division title, but ironic that they've ended up winning 2 World Series. So
Well, they're the first wild card team to win a World Series when they did it in '97.
which is
Because the wild
super
card got
impressive.
implemented in '95.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Braves won in '95. They always won the division. '96 was the Yankees. Same thing. Won the division. Like, yeah. So, just bananas, man. Just bananas.
Really awesome, man. And then
Yeah.
the new question, you want to go ahead and rock that out?
Yeah. So this is a football question, and this is who is the only NFL player to win the following: the Heisman, a national title in college, NFL League MVP, a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP. And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not a quarterback.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, that's a
because
nice
everybody's going to
chair.
assume it's a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a nice cherry though, especially with when we talk about MVPs today. All we do are talk about quarterbacks. So,
Yeah.
very
Yep.
interesting for that. Oh yeah, we'll definitely be able to see what you guys think for next week on that. And go ahead, don't feel like you can't drop it right in the comments there and let us know what you think. But was there anything else you were looking to cover today, Al?
Nah, Willie, that's it, man. As always, it's been a beautiful episode, and I love you. And stay safe, man.
Yeah, you too, man. It was definitely a good one. We'll be back next week for episode 32. A few weeks. Don't want to get people too excited, but we will be doing a our first in-person episode. So they'll know we're actually friends and not just internet lovers, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'd
yeah. Now we
settle
can be
for
in real life lovers.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
That's perfect.
absolutely.
Perfect.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
man, you have a great rest of your day. I love you, bro. You take care.
Love you too, man.
Peace.